Oh, okay.
Hit that intro, Jared. Give us a
Give us
countdown,
that
I
sweet
guess.
intro. This should
Yeah,
be
what do
the
you
intro,
got?
actually.
Just me rambling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inaugural episode of Clickheads, the esports show where we try to get ourselves on the mark about what's going on in different video games, competitive or otherwise. I am Jared Barretel Castiglione, joined by, of course, Paul Sulpan Vaughn. Sir, it's been a minute. How have you been?
I've been great. Still haven't managed to make the moves all the way where I want to be going, but we'll catch up soon. We might even have an in-person Clickheads podcast episode,
like side by side with the mic and everything.
Oh yeah, we can get right up on one camera, really make the overlay really difficult, split us apart anyways, and we can shake hands through the webcams
100%.
On each other. Yeah.
And for those that are new to this, we're new to this as well. This is going to be a show where we talk about what we think is important going on in the gaming world. First and foremost, guys, it's Worlds time. League of Legends has taken the international stage, and it's been a pretty spicy bout of combat here. Sulpan, have you had a chance to watch any Worlds recently?
Here and there, I've been catching a few games. The first thing I want to know, for those of you who don't know, League of Legends every single year does something called pick'ems, where you're supposed to try and predict the outcome of Worlds. And this year, at the very start, while they didn't do any play-ins pick'ems, you had the chance to do a crystal ball pick, which would give you bonus points if you correctly pick the winner of the World Championship. Who'd you pick?
SKT1. They're back.
No.
Faker's back, baby. You can't knock down the Demon King.
I think the new guys are here. Showmaker's absolutely insane, and he will absolutely knock down the Demon King. But besides the point, this is all in the future, a little bit too far out. We're covering what's happened, right?
It's like a month away or so to speak.
Yeah. Play-ins are wrapping up right now.
Yeah,
so today's, for context, it's today's Friday. So tomorrow, actually, North America will play their series to contend for their spot on the group stage. That'll be Cloud9 facing off against, I think it's PCE Esports was the group that managed to make it through. But there's also been some drama in the and I'll be awake for it. But there's also been some drama in the league space here in play-ins.
It's kind of the silliest thing, right? Because it's the least kind of, maybe someone's being a little BM or someone said some curse words on stage, whatever the case may be. No, you got to correct me who it is. There's a player out there that has been leaking out the draft for their team so that way their friends can benefit in terms of gambling. And it's a big no-no. That's a really big no-no according to Riot.
It's a big no-no according to a lot of people. The comparative punishment for leaking insider information like this out into people to bet on betting websites is typically a lifetime competitive ban in traditional sports. Riot just released a competitive ruling today. So the team is Beyond Gaming, who has now a suspended mid laner for the duration of World. And I'm going to mispronounce his name, but it's, I believe, Maon. So he was leaking picks to his friends so that they could make bets on those picks and make some money for themselves. They're just coming off the back, and this news is also coming off the back of this. They just beat Galatasaray in a crazy 3-2 series.
Esports, yeah.
It
was a spicy one too to watch it.
Yeah, it was super close. But they qualify for tomorrow. They're going to play another best of 5, but now they're going to do it without their starting mid laner, which is so tragic.
And it's kind of situations like this where you don't really prepare for it to have your main guy, the kind of the spotlight feature, especially with the meta the way it is, to be kicked out for kind of extracurricular reasons. And they're combatants. Hanwha Life Esports, I don't think they're going to pull any punches. That's a huge advantage for them going forward. And then after that, it's groups, and that's where kind of the spicy stuff happens, because as we always see, there's the death groups. So we'll have to see if maybe North America can dodge 2 of the death groups. Team Liquid being later in with Mad Lions and Gen G. I don't know about you. That's looking kind of sus a little bit. 100 Thieves against Edward Gaming and T1, also kind of scary. So we can only hope that one of the North American teams face off against each other somehow, some way, so that way we have a better fighting chance. But that'll do that for the World segment. Riot's got some more competitive games going on, though. Valorant they're also kind of wrapping things up. They're moving towards their third and probably final of the season international competitions, with some last chance qualifiers coming out next week. Tuesday, October 12th, we have Genji Esports versus 100 Thieves in the favorite game Valorant. Luminosity Gaming versus XSET will be taking on each other there. And of course, it's going to be knockouts from there moving forward. And that's pretty scary because all these teams are in their last chance qualifiers before, the end of the year, where they start popping off with the champions, I believe, is the competition of choice for their world's title.
Yeah, and interestingly enough,
that game's crazy.
They're actually, I think they just actually announced a talent pool for the World Championship for the casters at least. So this is something that I was at least paying attention to. But what I thought was really tragic. Upmind and Sully is like a dynamic duo from the CSGO days. I think Sully is like the youngest caster out there. The guy's like got a crazy large following. He gets tons of views. He's like, I think he retired for the rest of the year because it's actually his senior year of high school. So he's focusing on college apps and finals to make sure he can get into college. And so the guy got split up from his duo for this tournament in Valorant. And it's so sad. But I mean, I'm also really happy that Upmind managed to make it in. The afro is or what's the word I'm looking for? It's iconic at this point. You got to have it on your podcast.
You have to. I mean, that's the whole point. And that's a different dynamic all in and of itself. But that will do it for our coverage of the Riot news coming up here in the next few weeks. We'll move on to a little bit of a different game here as we take a quick break moving forward. And folks, that's not all. We have so much more here. Smash is a fighting game. If you've never heard of it, Super Smash Bros. Has been an iconic series within the esports scene for generationally. I think it's that large now. But with some new flavor being added, Smash has finally concluded this epic saga with the Switch coming out with their final release DLC character, Sora, from the Kingdom Hearts series. Sulpan, do you have any thoughts? Any disappointments? I know a lot of people were hoping that Master Chief was going to see the scene there, but that's a little far-fetched for me.
I mean, I used to be like a huge Melee fanboy. I remember like looking up on old forum, like I think it was the GameStop forums, where I was like looking up how to play as the Master Hand or get the Master Hand as an unlockable character. Of course, all faked videos, and I fell for every single one of them.
Yeah.
But I also remember seeing, even back then, tons of like requests for like, man, I wish Kingdom Hearts characters could make their way into Smash. And so I'm not surprised to see this. I'm not sure if the hype was still there because I feel like it's been a while since a Kingdom Hearts game has come out. It feels like it's a little bit out of the wayside. I mean, like you said, Master Chief was on the table. I think with Halo Infinite coming out, that could have been really hype. There's a couple of collaborations they could have done, but in the end, I don't think there was like a wrong choice for a Smash character. I'm just happy to have another one in the game, and looking forward to see what they're going to bring next, because this was it. This was the last Smash character.
Yeah, it's the last one for this game. And, interestingly enough, they've shown multiple different characters with high complexity. You have Hero from Dragon Quest, who I think has, if I'm not mistaken, 30 spells that you can cast or something crazy like that.
Too many.
And then Sora is just, as Sakurai has said, a pretty easy guy to play. Very well-rounded, has great recovery, great aerial combat, great ground game, and it's going to be cool to see. The only thing I'm complaining about is how many more swordsmen do we need in Smash? Like, can we get like a dual-wielding shield guy or Gimli from Lord of the Rings with the giant axe? Like, where's the representation? I don't understand. I won't complain too much because they actually fit Ridley in the game somehow, so I can't be too sad.
I think that was just like a really big point in the Smash world too, was like, I think everyone was trying to avoid sword characters because I think of the DLC characters, you had Byleth, Hero,
Cloud Sephiroth.
We were just talking about this one. Cloud Sephiroth, now this Kingdom Hearts character, and then
Hero.
I think is it the Dragon Age? No, Dragon Age was Hero. There's another DLC. Xenoblade Chronicles. What was her name? I'm blanking on her too.
I don't remember her name. That was not a game I've ever played.
Yeah. It's one of the character releases I was also less hyped for myself. I think the community kind of also reflected that sentiment. But like, having so many of this same archetype of character that, you know, utilizes a sword, has like very similar, I'd say, aerial style. I think Byleth had some unique mechanics built in, but it was just like, can we get like another melee fighter? Just like bring us another Mario or Pikachu or something.
Yeah, give us Min Min. Oh wait, they already gave us Min Min.
I forgot.
Remember Min Min from the the punching game?
Yeah. Point taken. There's a melee character in
kind of, because her arms are giant springs and she can launch them across the screen. So arm. Yeah. Minecraft Steve honestly caught me off guard too, to be honest. That's a weird one.
Ambitious crossover. I thought that was going to be Fortnite's thing throughout the next decade, but Minecraft Steve making his way to Smash was pretty interesting.
Carnage skin, and I'm tempted. Carnage is my absolute favorite character of all time. Can't do it. I can't bring myself to play Fortnite. There's too many good builders, I'll call them, for lack of wanting to insult anybody. But that's not all that's kind of happened in this fighting game scene. We've seen the introduction to something that's really picked up the pace, ultimately in the form of the way that the game's styled. Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, weird title, great game, so far has been pretty happily accepted into the fighting game community.
Yeah, pretty interesting to take the title of the worst Smash game and work it into the title of your new introductory fighting game. Bold move, but it's working out for him. I mean, there is some criticism around the game that I think is valid. The lack of voice lines on any characters at all, it just kind of plays out to be very silent.
It's very disorienting, because there's no voice acting, which is weird because you would think that Nickelodeon would have their own rights to their voice acting.
Yeah, I can't remember if there's any reasoning for it, but there's also been some criticism that it wasn't well play tested, mostly citing the insane number of like infinite combos in the game.
Yeah.
You like get one hit, you can easily combo into like 3-4 more. Combos one off the stage and then quickly recover. This is leading to tournament formats being 4 to 5 stocks, and some players I think are actually requesting more than that.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. There's a plethora of stages that are available, but there's only 4 legal stages out there. So I think that if anything, they knew that they would have to try and become popularized, and it's hard. It's not hard to do so with an amazing cast of characters. I mean, you have, what is his name, the toast guy from Ren and Stimpy. He's got toast for. He's a superhero. I forget his name. Anyway, he's a piece of toast that has got superpowers. You have Ren and Stimpy in general. You have cast from All Real Monsters. You have the old school, cat dog, SpongeBob coming through with the mix. There's a bunch of different additions, and to see that cast there, it's obviously a compelling point. But I think they knew that they had to get some competitive legal things out there, and for good reason, because they've already been invited to a pretty big tournament. Mainstage, which is a major tournament run by Beyond the Summit, has already announced that they're going to feature Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, which is insane. I think you were mentioning that there was somewhere around 500 players already signed up for it.
I heard somewhere 700, but that may have been a different tournament being hosted by an individual player. But either way, the game has just like this insane amount of hype that's already bringing. A lot of competitive players from Smash are jumping in just, kind of for kicks and giggles, maybe as looking at potential game switch. One thing you touched on earlier that I would also like to bring up was that Smash and Nintendo had like such a unique and fun and identifiable cast of characters. And it's interesting that finally rather than a gaming group, it's a cartoon studio that said, we also have a cast of lovable, identifiable characters. Let's throw them into an arena and have them just punch the crap out of each other.
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, the only other thing that's come close to this was what was that PlayStation game? Was it also called PlayStation All-Stars?
It may have actually been.
It had like Big Daddy and Kratos and Jack and Daxter and Sly Cooper and stuff like that. And if it tells you the Rapper as a character.
If it tells you to think about the success of the game, the fact that we can't remember the name of it and you remember maybe like a few characters kind of tells you that PlayStation doesn't really have that same like unity, I guess, amongst if a PlayStation player plays God of War, they also 100% play Knack. It's like it's just not really the same kind of crossover you're going to get out of something like Nintendo games or Nickelodeon's cartoons.
That's what you get when you're Nintendo and you have an iron vice grip on all your intellectual property.
And Minecraft Steve now. Congrats.
You can't stream Nintendo games without seeing like a banhammer somehow coming through. So I hope that there's a little bit more free reign that might increase the ease of accessibility for Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Do you have a character you want to main?
I'm probably Patrick Star. I like him too much. Childhood favorite.
He has a move called "No, this is Patrick," and I believe he drops a phone on you.
I'm impressed by their ability to pick up on like the internet trends and stuff and work that into the game rather than just ignoring them completely. But on the point of streaming, I remember seeing a crazy screenshot just 2 days ago of the viewer count between Smash Ultimate and Nintendo All-Stars Brawl, and it was 94K to 2K.
Wow.
On each of those. So, I mean, like, dang. I think just, I mean, again, you can't really take that at face value because it's the general, like, oh, new game on Twitch, the excitement.
Yeah.
Like when Valorant hit 200K viewers off of their crazy open beta stuff they did, and just like the partnering with streamers and having them stream the game. So there's just like a lot of buzz and hype. And really the question is, will this game have the staying power and the developer support that Nintendo lacks to stay around as a staple in the fighting game community?
That's true. That's kind of the biggest testament for most games, if not just this particular genre, is the quickness in which the developers can realize that balance changes need to happen. Because it's similar to what you had mentioned about infinite combos. I believe Michelangelo can also stay off stage forever without having to touch the ground. If you want to look up how to do that, do it. It's very entertaining. Don't do it in a competitive match. You'll be ridiculed forever as the biggest Weenie Hut General ever. Also, why is that not a stage? Why is Weenie Hut General not a stage? They need to get on it.
It could have been. Maybe just on a competitive stage. But yeah, I think the classic Smash community response would be to throw a crab at you on stage as you're trying to stall out for time. So not a welcome mechanic.
That's not a reputation you want. Not at all.
No.
And that will cover our coverage for the fighting game news for now. Until something else spicy picks up. We'll be back right after this tiny little space in time. We've gone from left-clicking, right-clicking, shooting to fighting, but we're going back to the clicking, the original, the OG. This is where the clickheads really gets into things. College Call of Duty, it's a scene. It's amateur, it's competitive, it's risky. Everyone's trying to make themselves show up, big plays, big carries, big backpacks. And, it's going on all the time. And there was recently an invitational thrown on by the Florida Mutineers for College Team. Had 16 teams invited, with Ottawa University being one of them. And despite all these teams' best efforts, Ottawa University put on a clinic, was able to dominate this entire tournament, taking first place, with Independence Community College taking second and St. Edward's Point in third. But a little bit of a shout out to Oklahoma Christian University. They did some phenomenal work. In fact, they've clinched their title for being one of the top 10 teams in the scene based off their performance alone. It may not result in the tournament W, but that doesn't mean that they got a target on their heads.
I mean, again, I think it's important to note that it's their first year within the COD space.
True.
But also touching on the Ottawa dynasty, I don't think you can understate how crazy good Ottawa is in the college COD space. I think it's been now 3 years of them winning basically any major tournament within the scene. Their main roster will win, and then their second roster will usually take like top 10 at least, if not like you might even see them in the top 4. And everyone's afraid to see Ottawa on the other side of the bracket whenever they're in any tournament in the college COD space. They've won CCL, they've won TESPA. They always play in the gunfight tournaments, of course, that TESPA also throws on. So they're always showing up, and this is one of the most dominant teams. Like, I mean, I don't even think Maryville can compare in terms of League of Legends dominance, because even then there's competition, but Ottawa just is on another level. And I know. I mean, obviously, all dynasties must come to an end, but right now they still look unstoppable, even this season, just based off the results of the most recent Invitational within the College COD space, which was the Florida Mutineers actually putting on a tournament in the College COD scene.
Yeah, they went 3-0 each matchup, except, of course, the final one ending up with 3-1. But that means that in their entire series, for the entire tournament, they only dropped one map. That's
and it's like it could come down to like a I mean, and again in college or in Call of Duty, the competitive format, it's variant. So you're playing hardpoint, search and destroy, and control. If a team comes at you with some wacky search and destroy strats that you've never seen before, they might send 4 to a point that you're only sending 1 to. That might get lucky. I think search and destroy is very volatile within COD. I think a lot of upsets tend to happen around that game mode. And so it's no surprise to see them drop one map. But also, I even think that is somewhat a surprise because, again, extremely dominant roster, and they still continue to be.
Hey, we even mentioned last time we were on Dust together that because of the competitive setup, the nature of each map is so drastically different than each other. And that's, I think, why you're alluding to Search and Destroy being such an interesting and kind of game-flipping type and rule set, because of the fact that there's only that one life. In every other situation, you can go for like a 2-for-1 trade and know that you have the respawn on the back end to try and help, kind of justify you going wantonly into danger. You don't have that opportunity in Search and Destroy, and the pacing thus far is even that much, I guess, slower by nature of that fear of losing that one crucial life.
Yeah, I mean, not helped by the fact that you play hardpoint. Right. Super high octane comeback is always possible as long as you can just roll down the
full
fort,
sprint forward all the time.
Yeah, and then you go straight into Search and Destroy. So it's a complete momentum flip. It's a complete mental switch you have to make. And at that point, if you're Ottawa, you 3-0 every single team leading in this tournament, probably just giant leads on every single map, right? You're probably feeling a little bit confident going into the finals, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them just be like, it's just a search round. Let's just mess around. I mean, like, they have that capability. They're at that level of the only other comparison I can think of is League of Legends related. Samsung Galaxy White at the World Championship trolling one game in the World Finals just for fun, just so that one guy on their team could get a skin on Singed. Like, I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch this matchup, but have no doubt that Ottawa University probably didn't bring their best in that loss.
No, and it's possible that was intentional, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're feeling yourself and you want to having a little bit of extra fun, tossing out that one map isn't going to cost you much. Because, at the end of the day, too, you go 3-1 in a series against an opponent, that means that you're coming back to a game type that you've already played.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, once you get a feel for the opponent, sometimes you can adapt, but there's no adapting to a dominant force like that. You just kind of roll over.
It's demoralizing. Yeah, it's so saddening.
Hope they leave your body intact.
Right, which they
kind of moving on from the college space, though, although there's a lot of intermingling in terms of the two. We can talk a little bit about the amateur scene, and there's a very exciting tournament coming up.
Yeah, Call of Duty Agent, along with Ezone, they've tossed around the idea of having a pretty massive tournament for each region, and then taking the top 2 teams from the 4 regions and having them duke it out to find out who's the best of the best. Finals are actually tomorrow, so stay tuned and watch those between the top 8 teams in North America. The Northeast region being represented by GIGN, and sorry about this, representing them. With the Southeast having Last Dance and Southeast Demons following up that representation. West, of course, got the boys, Rare Breed and Bases Loaded. And South, of course, pulling up West R and Team Smog. And I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any of these teams play, but this is why they're beyond that of this college kind of, I wouldn't say amateur. It's play style, they've definitely got things figured out, and these 8 teams are truly the best that we have in North America.
I will say this: one thing that's extremely exciting about the Call of Duty scene is how grassroots it is compared to a lot of more inorganic esports leagues setups. You look at something like Overwatch. tournaments at this level don't exist in the amateur space. You have contenders, and that's it. Because Overwatch League doesn't want to be handing out these giant contracts, these giant prize pools to tournaments that they aren't able to monetize themselves. Kind of similar to League of Legends, kind of similar to a lot of these more established esports in the space. But Call of Duty has the Call of Duty League, and they have this crazy passionate amateur community surrounding that just brings so much excitement to the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy to think that, through all that we are able to watch, that there are noticeable trends. There's obviously like, meta and different sort of most effective tactics available that a lot of these different tiers of play use. But these guys are able to do so in such a fashion that proves that they're exactly where they need to be in terms of competitive fashion, proves that they're deserving of international competition. And to watch it kind of be displayed, I mean, it's probably one of my favorite things about esports is to watch masters of a video game duke it out.
Would you say that the pro scene then would be like the grandmaster level, and what we're looking at is just not necessarily lower tier of gameplay, but more scrappy, kind of when you compare a professional
like a
football game to a college.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and that's something that I always draw parallels to as well, is the fact that on the college scene, especially for football, you're doing crazy shit. You're doing stuff that you want to show off with because you got people scouting. You want to get a big spotlight on you for good reasons, and you'll do just about anything to have that spotlight and keep a hold of it. Same thing could be said for these teams. Yes, W's are a noticeable resume stacking, statistic, but at the end of the day, if you're the carry player, someone's going to pay for you. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. I mean, like, this is a great way to get recognized, but of course, a lot of it. I don't know how to ever say this. The Call of Duty scene, amateur-wise, is very unique in that I have never seen more in-person BM in any esport than I have at College COD. The LANs just get crazy. I mentioned earlier about how passionate the players are, right? But I can't understate for anyone who hasn't been to a Call of Duty LAN how it just insanely crazy it gets there, with players right across from each other, always yelling at each other. You watch a League of Legends LAN, the people are like almost dead silent, talking only to their teammates throughout the entire thing, and almost even whispering so the comms don't come through the other team. You know, Call of Duty LAN, you get pop-offs, see people standing up, getting each other's faces, and then of course, at the end of it all, shaking hands. But those brief moments of just intense BM and passion are just really exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's almost part of the requirement, right? You can't sit there and be a timid, humble player and perform well, because as much as you're doing
you won't get
physical, you get physical damage popping off. You're getting the bullets, the grenades, whatever, incendiaries do damage over time in the game. But somebody's got to do that mental damage at the end of the day. And it's going to be you. You get a 4K 1v4, you bet your bottom dollar you're jumping across that tiny barrier that doesn't exist, and you're popping off individually to each one of your opponents.
Yeah, just make sure you don't make the venue owner upset with what you're saying. That's
no F-bombs is what I've heard in the past.
Yeah, no F-bombs. You may yell, though.
You'll get yourself DQ'd.
For the most part. Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, be creative with your BM. That's all I ask. You can curse, but that's not original. We've heard it all before. If you want to call your opponent a lint licker, then there you go. That's when you start doing the mental damage.
Oh, they're breaking out the Take 5 gum insults. They're getting creative.
You call them a cootie queen, it's on. You're meeting in the parking lot after the game. Well, that's all we have here for the Call of Duty. That's all we got right now for Call of Duty, at least for the foreseeable future. But, with this tournament being tomorrow, you got to watch that stuff. We'll throw it to a quick little breaky break as we throw it to the ether of time itself, the perpetual darkness, the void itself coming to consume us one day at a time. Continuing the trend of clicking heads and trying to get objectives finished and secured, Overwatch time. Overwatch me. Guys, the Washington Justice and Los Angeles Gladiators teamed up for an exhibition match for Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2, of course, competitive is switching to 5v5 instead of the 6v6, maybe a little bit better than its predecessor. And two of the characters are getting a little bit of overhaul. Sombra and Bastion, being DPS style characters, are getting some extra redesign. And I haven't quite seen much of the Sombra rework, but that new Bastion set's pretty cool, especially with like the mortar strike. I think that's awesome.
All I'm saying is me and Overwatch officially have beef. My favorite meta was Goat's meta. They then restricted us to only have 2 tanks, and now we're stuck with only 1. And I think that's disappointing.
Boring. But then again, you were always the highlight anyway. The sneaky shatters, the swole papa, the left melee click. Who needs a gun when you can just swing a arcing mace across the big old hammer? Why would you need anything else?
Either way, Overwatch 2 is a much needed revival to the Overwatch space right now. I mean, I think it's the last remaining hero shooter. I remember there being 4 in development around the time Overwatch dropped.
Battleborn, baby, represent. Let's go. There was a character in that game named Benedict that was essentially a better version of Pharah, but it's a dead game because they tried to release it during Overwatch's release, which is a big no.
It just wasn't going to work. I know it was disappointing. I mean, they didn't have the same style. I mean, I think there was a Gundam hero shooter that was in development briefly. I'm not sure if it had any like AAA support or any kind of crazy hype, but I haven't heard anything about that in a long time. There was, I think I'm missing another hero shooter, but of course TF2. That the hero shooter genre is just kind of dying out. It feels like little by little, outside of maybe Rainbow Six Siege if you want to count that. But so Overwatch 2 might be the revival we need because Overwatch, I would say, was probably the most popular of every hero shooter, outside of maybe the TF2 at its most dominant peak. But getting a new game, new mechanics within that game, a ton of new maps, new game modes, new characters. There's a lot of excitement around this 5v5 Overwatch bringing new hype to the scene, and it might be just enough to recover the game. But the question is, will it get here in time?
That's true. Yeah, before the genre completely phases out. And the more interesting thing is the fact that it's probably competitively Blizzard's best game. I mean, on the competitive standpoint, because I don't know, if you see someone going for Deadeye, you have defense matrix. You have a lot of innate counters, and within those counters, there's a bit of balance. There's not a lot of things that you can say that are terribly unbalanced in that game. Whereas, I don't know about you, a topic that we'll leave for later conversation, Hearthstone's, the more you put into that game monetarily, the better you end up being. And World of Warcraft Arena, forget it. Everybody goes to full dampening, 99% healing reduction because the games are that long, because healers are busted. And then even then, each match can either be a 50-minute endeavor or it can be over in 2 minutes. That's not balanced to me. StarCraft, maybe, I guess.
StarCraft had its own falling out, mostly due to a lot of import or a lack of import regulation, where it became the United States Koreans versus the Korean Koreans, and there was not a lot of homegrown local talent to get players excited about, people that they could relate to a little more. So I think StarCraft had its own issues, and I'll miss that competitive scene dearly, but it was also not fun to spectate. So Overwatch kind of found a happy medium. They injected a ton of money into the Overwatch League, but I think generally I would call it successful. Of course, there's questionable moves with like the Twitch to YouTube, and I don't want to get into all that. But overall, I'd say the Overwatch League was a success.
Yeah, I happen to agree to some extent. I do have a Los Angeles Gladiators and New York Excelsior hat somewhere in this room, and for good reason, because those are the 2 best teams, without a doubt.
Shields up.
Maybe competitive Diablo 2 is going to be the new move. Once the ladder opens and PvP starts happening, you climb that ladder. Someone's going to try and do an esport about it. PoE? You mean PoE 2?
Well, on the topic of the Overwatch League, getting back to that, I want to talk briefly about the Shanghai Dragons, who was originally known for going 0-40 in the inaugural season in 2016.
Please leave them alone. Let them die.
They literally won they made the world record for the longest professional sports team loss streak.
Yeah.
And what is absolutely just crazy to me is that this team is in my mind, the only esports team I've ever seen that went from being the bottom of the barrel, the worst of the worst in the league, to winning. There's no other team who's managed to make that extreme thing happen. You have FlyQuest and LCS that's managed to go from like, they kind of have their contending moments. They're like maybe a
100 Thieves,
fourth to fifth place team who managed to back to the top. I mean, even 100 Thieves made LCS finals their first year. This team was literally the last place team. They were setting records in loss streaks, and they had like fans who were mad at them. They wanted them to get relegated out of the franchise league. They wanted them to, like, this team to get to money because, like, how on earth do you lose 40 games as a competitive team? Just crazy, right? Unprecedented.
Just a bad day.
Turn that completely around.
Bad game.
Yeah, not our map, guys. Not that one either. I don't know about that. You just can't keep
40 games later. Oh, wait, guys, we could have just won the whole time, and then they did. Only team who could win this to a 4-0 grand finals victory against the Atlanta Reign to win the $1.5 million prize pool. It literally just completely new. Never before seen anything in That's
esports.
An anime arc right there, right?
In such a short time period, too. I mean, you think about the longevity of competitive or of traditional sports, where you have teams that kind of wax and wane throughout many, many years of development on that roster. Staff changes, player changes, infrastructure changes within the team structure. To esports, where from 2016 to 2021, 5 years, the team managed to make a complete 180 on how they were playing.
Right. And that's enough Overwatch for me. That game, whenever I go into comp, I have to queue up as tank where I'm sitting there for 20 minutes. And then when I get to play DPS, my tanks don't know that they have shields. My healers don't heal. So I'm done talking about Overwatch. But
you're done? All right,
just as exciting to me, equally as done, is going to be Hearthstone. And then they've added a new update to add a kind of new RPG type mode called Mercenaries, which will be released in, I think, about 3 days. Yeah. 3-4 days, October 12th. Mercenaries will have heroes based on the Warcraft universe, and beyond, you will be able to upgrade your heroes in multiple ways. So that's where that RPG aspect comes into play. Of course, there will be PvP and PvE with rewards between both for that. But I know someone here in this room, not me, so it's got to be Paul. It's got some very interesting words to say about good old Hearthstone.
Yeah, so this is another unprecedented thing in the gaming world, where a developer is actively responding to Riot trying to take over their gaming space. So Riot has released Valorant, which is the better, more marketable CSGO. They've released League of Legends, which was the better, more marketable Dota. They've released Legends of Runeterra, which is the better, more marketable Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering Online, whatever card game of choice you want to play. Easy to pick up. Really cool mechanics, very unique, a lot of very unique things going on. And they, I would say, probably created originally the game mode that Blizzard did. And the reason I say this is unprecedented is because CSGO didn't really change much. They let you drop flashbangs now instead of being forced to only be able to buy them and only have one player carry them. But like really no developer that Riot has released a clone game of has actively responded to the changes that Riot made in that game to make it better, and made those changes themselves and implement some of those changes themselves. So here, Hearthstone is actually implementing a game mode that Riot has already created in Legends of Runeterra. Extremely fun if you ever get around to it. It's called Saltwater Scourge. They had a version of it before. That's name is currently slipping my mind. But it is a PvE RPG mode where you go through with a deck that you build over time, adding unique powers that you would never ever see in normal PvP. It gets really exciting. It's really aimed at casual players. I play it at work sometimes because you can actually just pick it up. The turn time limits are off, so you can sit there with it on your screen. You can even close the game, and when you open it back up, you'll be at the exact same turn in the exact same game state without surrendering or losing anything. So it's really appealing to casual play. Extremely fun and really unique. You can create some like just crazy wacky combos that shouldn't be possible, but if you theory craft, get the right RNG on your side, you can do some insane things in that game. So it's really exciting, and it's really cool to see another game finally responding to Riot's attempted takeover of the gaming world, because this is what Blizzard used to do. Blizzard used to be the company that would come in, take your game, and be like, we're going to do this but better. They did World of Warcraft, they did StarCraft. right? They took over the RTS genre, they took over the MMO genre, they took over the card gaming genre initially with Hearthstone, becoming like the first card game released on mobile. And finally, they're firing back at Riot Games' attempt at creating a dynasty by changing up Hearthstone at least a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned a bunch of instances of casual appeal, because Magic the Gathering is not for casual players. That game will take your heart, rip it out, stomp on it, and then at the same time, you still think that you have a chance until it finally gets taken away. And then the next game, you'll be the one to do. You must have just played
against a blue-white deck.
Oh, yeah. Jace the Mind Sculptor still haunts my ever-living nightmares for the rest of my days. I met someone who had a Jace the Mind Sculptor tattoo, and I was like, I literally am so mad at you for all my years of anguish because of that one card. So, yeah, I'm a little salty about it, and that's okay with me. Speaking of salt, I think we have a unique opportunity here, because you and I have some very interesting opinions about the world of gaming right now. So we're gonna throw it to a section I would like to call "You Have the Conch," or it's still tentative. Well, leave it in the comments how you feel. You have the conch, or I'm gonna let you finish, but ... That's either the name of one of those two names is the name of the segment, and I'll throw the conch to you. What kind of rants and raves you got to talk about? Doesn't have to be specifically about esports, but has to still be kind of game related.
Well, Barretel, I'm gonna let you finish, but
hell yeah,
Deathloops was the biggest disappointment in gaming this year, by far. I don't know how to even describe this anymore. We're seeing AAA developers put so much hype, pour so much money into marketing just these games. Cyberpunk. I was just about to bring that up. You're reading my mind exactly. Cyberpunk was massively disappointing. Deathloops, I wouldn't say it was as massively disappointing as Cyberpunk, but the fact that they were hyping this game for so long, they had like these crazy, they were showing these crazy next gen graphics, super cool mechanics. It was the developer of Dishonored who revolutionized in my mind stealth gameplay. They had so many cool, unique things, and it created such a buzz around this game, and it gets released. Gaming review companies give it a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 from IGN, 10 out of 10 from other irrelevant game review companies.
IGN.
Metacritic, yeah, whatever. And people play it, and it was just okay. It was just an okay game. It was just like, oh yeah, it was fun to play through, I guess. It's not. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it was just a massive disappointment, and yeah, the fact that it was hyped up for so long, I'm sure they had like a dedicated fan base like Cyberpunk waiting in the wings for this thing to release. Finally releases, it comes out, and then it was just like, That's
all we can only hope for like the No Man's Sky effect for that, right? No Man's Sky upon release after being hyped up, complete travesty. Now, a pretty good game by most people's accounts. So it really kind of depends, and that's kind of the thematic for a lot of these games that continue to be relevant. They have to continue to be adaptive, and the people in charge of adapting the game have to listen to their community. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, I'm just a question of
will I'm not a stealthy person. If there's a stealthy option in a game versus like a very like explosive and loud option, I'm always loud. Going loud is my favorite thing to do. Yeah, I'm just chaos incarnate. I'm gonna let you finish, but we didn't talk about the international at all. Dota 2, in my defense, and this is because I've had a brief experience, and by brief I mean since the creation of the game, with League of Legends. I love that game. It's probably my heart, my soul. But man, that game has so much to learn from Dota 2 in the way that the tournaments are organized. You had mentioned already how Riot likes to privatize their own competition. I think that's the wrong way to go about it. Dota 2 features a year's worth of minor competitions for small cash prizes for teams that want to go forward to it, and major competitions, all leading up to getting themselves qualified for TI, or the international, the big international competition. And it's so much more respectful to not only the player base, but to the fans, because throughout the year, Dota 2 does like 4 or 5 huge rehauls on champions and items to keep things competitive, keep the meta always shifting so it doesn't get stale. So what? If you're not good at the game, you can have your farm denied. Big whoop. It's a mechanic of the game. It's not as scary as you may think. So if you're tired of League of Legends and the community, maybe try a different game. Dota 2 is still very popular. It's very similar in the sense of League of Legends. And let me tell you, you play Dota 2 for a week, you'll come back to League and think it's child's play. That's all I gotta say. That's my rant. That's my tea for right now. I got some more, but we'll save it for
League
another
of Legends
episode.
all the way, baby.
Dota 2, baby. I'm gonna get one of them shirts.
I'll have to agree to disagree or whatever the phrase would be in this case. But the one thing that I'll agree with you on is that the tournament structure of Dota can be really, really hype because you get those best of fives against super competitive teams all the time, kind of like CSGO, where you have top teams constantly meeting at these smaller competitions all around the world.
Right. Well, it's weird.
And then in League of Legends, you have you watch Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest. And you're just like,
you don't need to say anymore, actually. But we will also kind of sidebar that as we are closing things out for some honorable mentions, some things that we are excited about that might not be super competitive, but have definitely come out. Hot Wheels, for those that are fans of maybe Trackmania, want a little bit more customized experience. I heard that the new Hot Wheels game is actually pretty fun. So that's something. The Battlefield new beta is open today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So if you're watching this in time, you have until the 10th to play some of the new Battlefield. And I heard some positive, leaning on neutral reviews of the game. It's hyper mobile. The TTK is pretty low. But more importantly, you have a grapple gun, and you can summon a robo dog you can summon a Boston Dynamics dog to shoot people, which I don't know if you need anything else in the game. And then lastly, Far Cry 6 is out.
In general.
Yeah,
for sure. I almost forgot about that one too.
Yeah, Far Cry's out. You can, no spoilers beyond this, but you get a pet alligator named Guapo. And that dude runs at like 30 miles an hour, which is pretty sick. But let's talk about gaming. I kind of want to go play some. You want to go play some games? We're going to go play some games. That will,
we got a rematch.
That will actually do it for tonight's episode of the inaugural Clickheads. We'll see you next time. Finger guns.
I'll get him a little higher.